lecture 5 on structural organization in animals. So in last lecture, we were studying about cockroach. So we study about the general body structure and what is the basic morphology of cockroach, Periplaneta americana, that is the American cockroach. In today's lecture, we will mainly be dealing with the anatomy, different types of organ systems that are present in cockroach, that is Periplaneta americana. So firstly, we will start with the digestive system. So the alimentary canal, as we can see in the figure, is long and coiled. So it is long and coiled, which is divided into three main parts. The first one is the foregut, the second middle part is the midgut, and the last part is the hindgut. So foregut is also known as stomodium, which is differentiated further into the five parts that includes buccal chamber, pharynx, esophagus, crop, and gizzard. So this part is the part of foregut that involves this buccal cavity, buccal chamber, then esophagus, pharynx, esophagus, and crop and gizzard. Gizzard, basically, what is the food enters through the buccal chamber and then it through the esophagus it reaches to the crop. So crop is the region where the food gets stored. The food gets stored, and here mostly digestion happens. Whereas gizzard is the place where grinding and crushing of the food happens. So many people get confused between the function of the crop and the gizzard. So it is the gizzard where the grinding and crushing of the food happens. It is a muscular structure. Gizzard is a muscular structure and it is internally provided with the six cuticle teeth which crushes the food. So what is the function of gizzard? The function of gizzard is to crush and grind the food. A stomatial valve is present between the gizzard and the mesenteron that does not allow the backward flow of the food. So the foregut, which is known as the stomodium, and the midgut is known as the mesenteron or ventriculus. Now, mesenteron or ventriculus is a short pipe-like structure. We can see it is a very short structure as compared to foregut or hindgut. So it mainly consists. It is a short tubular structure. This is the midgut, which is lined with glandular epithelium. So this is a short tubular structure which is lined with the glandular endoderm. At the anterior end, we can see that there are 6 hepatic ceca. So these are the hepatic ceca. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So these are the 6 hepatic ceca which are present on the anterior end of the mesenteron. So on the anterior end of the mesenteron, this one is the anterior end, this is the posterior end. So on the anterior end of the mesenterons, hepatic ceca are present. What is the function of these hepatic ceca is to secrete the digestive enzymes. So these hepatic ceca, which are 8 in number, they are the glandular hepatic ceca that secretes the digestive enzymes. Hindgut, which is also known as the proctodeum, comprises of the ileum, colon, and rectum. So this is the hindgut. This portion is the hindgut that comprises of the ileum, colon, and rectum. So this is the hindgut portion where it acts like the intestine, and the wall of the rectum is provided with the 6 rectal papillae, which helps in the absorption of water and the salts. So these are the different functions of different structures. Salivary glands, we can say that these salivary glands are bilobed. We can see in the figure as well that the salivary glands consist of 2 lobes. They are bilobed. They secrete digestive enzymes. They secrete certain digestive enzymes. These digestive enzymes also assist in the digestion of the food when the food is passing through the pharynx. So cockroaches, we know, as we discussed, they are omnivores and they feed on all sorts of organic debris. Most of the nutrients of food are digested in the crop. So as I mentioned, most of the nutrients of food are digested in the crop, and absorption mainly takes place in the mesenteron, that is in the midgut. So in the midgut, which is the mesenteron, absorption mainly happens in the midgut. So this is the in the initial, that is in the foregut, mainly the digestion happens. Then in the midgut, what happens? It is mainly the absorption, and in the hind in the hindgut, mainly the excretion of the waste material from the body happens. And what are the parts of hindgut? It includes ileum, colon, and rectum. So this is the basics of the digestive system of cockroach. And the hindgut, in the hindgut, rectum consists of rectal papilla that helps in the reabsorption of water. So what are the main cockroach has, as I mentioned, they has a paired salivary glands that lie one on each side of the esophagus and crop. And salivary gland secretes saliva, which contains enzymes like amylase, chitinase, and cellulase. So amylase is the one that acts on the starch, chitinase acts on the chitin, and cellulase acts on the cellulose. So this is the basic of the digestive system of cockroach, which is divided into three parts, mainly foregut, midgut, and hindgut. Foregut also stands for stomodium, midgut stands for mesenteron or ventriculus, and hindgut that stands for proctodeum. The next organ system that we are going to discuss is the circulatory system. So the circulatory system is can be of two types. We know it can be an open type circulatory system in certain organisms, or it can be a closed type circulatory system in certain organisms. So cockroaches have open type of circulatory system. So they have open type circulatory system where the blood vessels are poorly developed. Blood vessels are poorly developed and blood run into the open spaces, which is the hemocoel. So blood runs into the open spaces, that is the hemocoel. So this hemocoel is the cavity, or you can say, or open spaces. Now, two horizontal portions, that is diaphragms. So there are two diaphragms. There are two diaphragms that divides the hemocoel or the complete open cavity into three larger spaces, as we will see in the next figure. So these three spaces are the dorsal or pericardial sinus. The first one is the dorsal or pericardial sinus that encloses the heart. The second one is the middle or perivisceral sinus that encloses most of the viscera. Viscera are the internal organs, right? And third one is the ventral or perineural sinus. As the name suggests, if you will remember the name, you will be able to remember what it actually encloses. So dorsal, middle, and ventral. Dorsal, that stands for pericardial. Cardial is related to heart, so it encloses the heart. Middle or perivisceral. Visceral is related to viscera, so therefore it encloses the viscera, most of the viscera. And third one is the ventral or perineural that encloses the nerve cord. So that encloses the nerve cord. The partition between pericardial and perivisceral sinuses is the dorsal diaphragm. So as I mentioned, there are two diaphragms. So the partition between the pericardial and perivisceral is the dorsal diaphragm. And the partition between the perivisceral and perineural, that is between these two, is the ventral diaphragm. So basically these two diaphragms divided the whole, suppose this is the whole space. There are two diaphragms that are present. So it will divide the complete whole space into three parts, three sinus. The first one will be dorsal, middle, and ventral. Dorsal will be pericardial, perivisceral, middle will be perivisceral, and third one will be the perineural. So this we can see in this figure also, that this is the pericardial sinus, this is the perivisceral sinus. So these are two diaphragms. The first one is this is the dorsal diaphragm, this is the ventral diaphragm. So dorsal diaphragm is present in between the pericardial sinus and perivisceral sinus, while the ventral diaphragm is present between the perivisceral and perineural sinus. And this cavity is known as the hemocoel, where the blood rushes. So heart of the cockroach consists of elongated muscular tube that lying along the mid-dorsal line of the thorax and abdomen. Then it is differentiated into 13 funnel-shaped chambers. This is important. It is a 13 funnel-shaped chamber structure. So it can be like this. These are 13 funnel-shaped chamber structures with ostia on either side. These are 13 funnel-shaped chamber structures with ostia on either side. The first chamber forms a single narrow tubular anterior aorta. So this anterior aorta is formed by the first chamber. You can see here, this is the first chamber. So in that way, there are 13. The first chamber forms the anterior aorta that leads into the head sinuses. And at the posterior end of each chamber, we can see that at the posterior end of each chambers, you can see here, at the posterior end of each chamber, a pair of apertures, which is known as the ostia, are present laterally. So at the posterior end, they are present laterally. A pair of apertures is present laterally like this. That helps in the rushing of the blood. Or we can say that helps in the rushing of the hemolymph here. So what happens is heart receives the blood from the pericardial sinus through ostia. As I mentioned, the heart receives the blood through ostia, which are guarded by auricular valves. So you can see here, these are the ostia which are guarded by the auricular valves. So blood rushes through the ostia. The blood enters into the pericardial sinus. So heart receives the blood from the pericardial sinus through the ostia which are guarded by the auricular valves to check blood flow from the heart to the pericardial sinus. So this auricular valves prevent the backflow. Prevent the backflow. This auricular valve prevent the backflow of blood from heart to the pericardial sinus. So these valves, auricular valves, prevent the blood from getting back to the pericardial sinus. All the chambers of the heart, we can see that there are 13 chambers which are laterally guided by the ostia. So all these chambers of the heart are interconnected and their openings are guided by the ventricular walls. We can see here that their openings are guided by the ventricular wall to allow the blood flow anteriorly only. So the blood flow from 13th segment, that is from the head sinus side, to the first segment, which is towards the pericardial sinus side. So what is the function of ventricular valve? It prevents the backflow of the blood, posteriorly. So basically valves allow the unidirectional flow of the blood. So what is the function of valves in general is it allows the unidirectional flow of the blood. It allows the unidirectional flow of the blood. So valves allow the unidirectional flow of the blood. So auricular valves prevents the backflow of blood from the heart to the pericardial sinus, and ventricular valves prevents the backflow of the blood posteriorly. A pair of fan-like triangular Ellery muscles are also present. So you can see in this figure that there are fan-like triangular Ellery muscles are present. These Ellery muscles play an important role in contraction and relaxation. So in the floor of the pericardial sinus in each segment, reinforce the dorsal diaphragm by their broad bases and also connected by the pointed tips with the tergite of the segment. So you can see here that it is helping in the connection between the tergite, that is the tergum of each segment, and the diaphragm of each segment. The broader side is connected to the diaphragm and the pointed side is connected to the tergites of each segment. So these Ellery muscles basically help in the contraction and relaxation. And triangular paired structures, these are the triangular paired structures that helps the heart to contract. So if it is a closed system, so we know that in the heart, two things happen. One is contraction and the other one is relaxation. Contraction and relaxation, right? So at one time, the heart is open and the other time the heart is closed. So heart in the open state, when it is in the closed state, the blood will flow from one chamber to another chamber. And when it is in the open state, the blood will flow through the ostium. So this is the open state that is being shown here. And this happens due to the contraction of the Ellery muscles. The Ellery muscles which are being connected to the diaphragm, they help in bringing about the contraction of the heart. So basically we can say that, if I have to see, we can say that the blood flows from the heart from 13th segment to first segment to first. From there, it comes to aorta, that is formed by the first segment. Then it reaches to the head sinus, which is present in the first segment. Then from there, it goes to perivisceral, that contains the visceral organs, and perineural, that contains the nerve cord. Again, the blood is collected in the pericardial sinus, and then from the pericardial sinus, it again reaches to this system starts. So this is how the blood flows happen from the heart, which is the 13th segment, to the first segment. Through the aorta, it reaches to the head sinus, and from there it reaches to the perivisceral and periventricular sinus, perineural sinus. From perivisceral to perineural sinus, it reaches to the pericardial region, and from the pericardial region, it again enters into the heart. So this is the circulatory system of cockroach, where it contains 13 segments, 13 chambers. So heart is 13 funnel shaped chamber structure with ostia on either sides. This ostia allows the inflow of the hemolymph into the different structures. The next is the respiratory system. So the respiratory system contains a pair of trachea that opens through 10 pairs of small holes called spiracles. Do not mix the numbers. Heart is 13 chambered. You can say it is 13 chambered, consists of 13 segments. Spiracles are the holes which are open through 10 pairs of small holes, which are called as spiracles, that are present on the lateral side of the body. And first 2 pairs are known as thoracic spiracles, and remaining 8 are known as abdominal spiracles. So the pairs which are present in the thoracic region are called as thoracic spiracles. So first 2 pairs are present in the thoracic region, the thorax, while the remaining 8 are present in the abdominal region, and therefore they are called as the abdominal spiracle. Each spiracle is surrounded by annular sclerae. So we know that sclerae are nothing but they are the structures, hardened structures. So each spiracle is surrounded by annular sclerae, which is known as peritrium, which leads into a chamber called atrium. And this branching tubes, tracheal tubes, subdivided into the tracheoles. So basically it's a trachea, then it's subdivided into very small tubes, which is tracheoles. Branching tubes called tracheoles that carry oxygen from air to all the parts. The opening of spiracles is regulated by the sphincters. So sphincters are present that regulate the opening of spiracles. Tergesternal muscles play an important role during inspiration and expiration. So during the inhalation and during exhalation, during inhalation of air and during exhalation, tergesternal muscles plays very important role. Exchange of gases takes place by the process which is known as the diffusion. Just like in the alveoli, the diffusion happens during the exchange of gases. Similarly, even in cockroaches, it takes place at the tracheoles by the process of the diffusion. So you can see here that what we studied is that spiracles, the opening of spiracle, as we see, is regulated by the sphincters, and each spiracle are surrounded by annular sclerae, which is peritrium, which leads into a chamber called atrium. So you can see here that spiracles leads into a chamber called atrium, and through this trachea then divided into various smaller branches, which is known as the tracheoles. In these tracheoles, the exchange of gases happens at this level. Gases takes place. The exchange of gases takes place by the process of exchange of gases takes place by the process of diffusion. So through diffusion, exchange of gases happens. So spiracles are the openings. There are 10 pairs of small holes, spiracles. So spiracles are basically 10 pairs. And these trachea, spiracle trachea, divided into the further shorter branches, which is the tracheoles. And in the tracheoles, exchange of gases happens by the process of diffusion. So this is the respiratory system of cockroaches, where there is a presence of 10 pairs of spiracles, and the exchange of gases takes place by the process of diffusion. The next organ system is the excretory system. So the excretory system, the main structure which is involved in the excretion is the Malpighian tubules. This we have studied during the when we were studying about the animal diversity. So Malpighian tubules are the main structures that are present in the cockroaches, and the excretory system of cockroach is a vital mechanism for waste elimination. It mainly involves Malpighian tubules. Malpighian tubules are 100 to 150 yellow colored thread like structures. So you can see here, this is the Malpighian tubules. Such Malpighian tubules are present in number of around 100 to 150, and they are thread-like structures. They are thread-like structures. 100 and 150 Malpighian tubules, which are thread-like structures, are present, and they are mainly connected to the digestive system. So you can see here that there is a connection with the midgut, there is a connection with the intestine, rectum, with the hindgut. So basically, this Malpighian tubules are connected with the digestive system, helping in reabsorption and excretion of the waste. So these tubules filter waste material from the insect's blood, absorbing them into their tubular structure. So you can see here that from the blood, these tubules reabsorb or filter salt, water, nitrogenous waste, which gets absorbed in these Malpighian tubules. So these from the blood. From the blood, salt, water, nitrogenous waste, etc., is being reabsorbed by the Malpighian tubules. The absorbed waste then comes in contact with the insect's digestive system. So it comes in contact with the food, absorbed waste that comes in the contact with the substances from the insect's digestive system, ultimately leading to the formation of uric acid crystals. So it comes in contact with the various food through the digestive system, resulting in the formation of uric acid crystals. These uric acid crystals move into the hindgut, where water and additional ions are reabsorbed. So this is important, that in the hindgut, absorption of water, ions, and valuable organic molecules takes place. So various ions, molecules, water, which is very important for the organism, gets reabsorbed in the hindgut region, and the waste is eliminated in the form of uric acid. So finally, the concentrated uric acid is excreted. So they are finally the concentrated uric acid is excreted as solid waste, eliminating the excess of nitrogenous compounds without significant water loss. So this uric acid is highly concentrated and therefore reduces the water loss from the body. This unique adaptation allows cockroaches to thrive in diverse environment, conserving water efficiently. So this uric acid elimination, this is highly concentrated form and prevents water loss from the body. So this is a kind of adaptation to cockroach to thrive in different environmental condition where it can survive even in the less water area, contributing to their remarkable resilience. So this is very important that Malpighian tubules are present as a part of excretory system. These Malpighian tubules absorb, these are connected to the digestive system as well. The tubules filter waste material. So waste material from the blood, waste from blood is filtered through Malpighian tubules, where they absorb a lot of salt, water, etc. And the waste comes in contact with the food. Leading to the formation of uric acid crystals. These uric acid crystals move to the hindgut, where reabsorption happens. This is very important step. Reabsorption happens. Reabsorption of the ions, salts, water, which is important. So reabsorption of important components happen, and the remaining is eliminated out of the body. Right? So you need to remember the structure, which is what is the structure which is present as a part of excretory system is Malpighian tubules. So Malpighian tubules, they have a lining and it helps in the reabsorption and absorption of the waste, and it helps in the excretion of the waste products out of the cockroach body. The next is the nervous system. So the nervous system of cockroach mainly consists of three parts, which is the central nervous system, CNS, peripheral nervous system, and sympathetic or visceral nervous system. Peripheral, that supplies the nerve endings to the periphery, to the visceral system, to the viscera, and it includes brain. So the nervous system consists of three parts. Mainly, it can be divided into three types of system. The first is central nervous system. The second is peripheral nervous system, and the third one is sympathetic or visceral nervous system. Before proceeding further, I would like to add one more point to this excretory system is that since they are excreting uric acid, therefore the examiner may ask whether they are ureotelic, or whether they are uricotelic or monotelic. So we know that since these organisms secrete uric acid, therefore they are uricotelic. Right? These organisms secrete uric acid and therefore they are uricotelic. And this uricotelic behavior is mainly an adaptation to prevent the water loss. So we were talking about the nervous system. So nervous system mainly consists of three parts. The first one is the central nervous system. The second one is the peripheral nervous system. The third one is the sympathetic or visceral nervous system. So central nervous system, as we know, the main part of the central nervous system is always the brain. So central nervous system consists of brain, which is also known as supraesophageal ganglion. This is important that the brain here is named as supraesophageal ganglion. So this supraesophageal ganglion acts as a brain. So this is a part of central nervous system, CNS, and we can see that it gives a pair of short stout cords, the circumoesophageal connectives, which are also known as circumpharyngeal commissures. Okay. So these gives out short stouts, circumoesophageal connectives that encircle the esophagus and pass downwards and backwards over the subesophageal ganglion. So this is the subesophageal ganglion. If I zoomed into this image, you can clearly see that the first one is the supraesophageal ganglion. This one is the supraesophageal ganglion, which is the brain. The second one is the subesophageal ganglion, which is situated, as the name suggests, sub means below, which is situated below the esophagus. And from the subesophageal ganglion, it passes backwards into the thorax, that involves thoracic ganglion, a double ventral nerve cord. So they have a double ventral nerve cord. So this is the nerve cord. So through supraesophageal ganglion, it passes through the subesophageal ganglion and through thoracic ganglion, then to the double ventral nerve cord, which bears 3 pair ganglia in the thorax and 6 in the abdomen. So this is the double ventral nerve cord, which has 3 thoracic ganglions, and 6 in the abdomen. Right? So there are 6 ganglions in the abdomen, 3 in the thoracic region. So you can see here that there are 6 abdominal ganglion that is divided into 7 segments. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. These are abdominal ganglion. Again, thoracic ganglions can be 3 types depending on whether they are present in prothorax, mesothorax, or metathorax. So these are thoracic ganglion and the brain, which is the supraesophageal ganglion. So peripheral nervous system consists of the nerves which are given off from the ganglia so as to innervate all the parts of the body. So you can see that these ganglions give rise to the nerves which innervates into all the parts of the body, all the body parts. Sympathetic or stomatogastric visceral nervous system, it consists of a frontal ganglion which is situated on the dorsal side of the esophagus in the head. So which is situated on the dorsal side of esophagus in the head. From this, a median unpaired recurrent nerve reaches the visceral ganglion situated on the crop. So this is the part of alimentary canal, gastric system. Therefore, stomatogastric visceral nervous system. Now, various nerve branches are given off from the visceral ganglion, and the frontal ganglion is jointed with the central nervous system by nerves, which is connected to the circumoesophageal commissures, as I mentioned. So there is a connection between the sympathetic nervous system and central nervous system through circumoesophageal esophageal commissures. Commissures are ring-like structures that are present. So they are ring-like structures that helps in connecting the two structures. Right? So there are 3 thoracic ganglions, 6 abdominal ganglion. 3 thoracic ganglion can be subdivided into 3 types: prothoracic, mesothoracic, metathoracic, depending upon the region in which they are present. Right? So the sensory system of cockroaches is very strong, and there are mainly 6 type of receptors which are present, or sensors which are mainly present. So mainly antenna and eye of the cockroach act as the sensory system, and also the setae which are located on the body helps in sensing the different conditions. So chemosensors, as the name suggests, chemo means related to chemicals. So anything that can be odor also, So it can be pheromones, anything that is related to the chemicals. So they have chemosensors to detect that. These receptors are located in the antennae and in the mouth parts that enable the cockroaches to detect and respond to the chemical stimuli, including pheromones. Pheromones are the hormones which are secreted, and they are also sometimes help in attraction of other opposite sex partner. So it gives a peculiar smell. Usually uh, it is like in the studies, it has been shown that pheromones also help in the attraction of the other opposite sex partner. So it enables the cockroaches to detect and respond to chemical stimuli, including pheromones and food odors. The next is the photoreceptors. So as the name suggests, photo is related to the light. So these are found in the compound eyes. They act as a photoreceptor. These receptors allow cockroaches to perceive light and distinguish the shape and movement. So in the last class, we discussed that compound eyes have mosaic vision. They have smaller units. They are made up of ommatidium. So photoreceptors are present in the compound eyes that helps these receptors allow the cockroaches to perceive the light and distinguish the shape and the movement of different structures. Mechanoreceptors that are responsible for the mechanical stimuli. Any touch or any other information about the air current or the vibrations which are present. So they are located on the sensory hairs which are known as setae across the body, legs and antennae. So we know that bristles are located across the body or across the legs or on the antennae. So these receptors respond to mechanical stimuli. What is mechanical stimuli? Any kind of touch, any kind of vibration, or any kind of current, air current, etc. So such mechanical stimuli is being detected by the mechanoreceptors, which are located on the sensory hairs. Thermoreceptors, name suggests it is related to the temperature. Thermo means temperature. So it is distributed on the body, and these receptors help cockroaches sense temperature changes in their environment. And then hygroreceptor. Hygro is the word which is related to humidity. So hygroreceptors will help sensing the humidity in the environment. And these receptors are mainly present on the antennae that exist in detecting the humidity levels. So main organs that we see is that act as the sensory organs are antennae, eyes that are compound eyes, and bristles or setae, which are the hairs that are present on the different structures like body, legs, and antennae. And it helps in aiding cockroaches in navigating their surroundings. So these sensory organs are innervated by the different nerves of the nervous system, and they help in sensing of the different environmental conditions which are surrounding the cockroach, thus helping it in preventing themselves from any kind of danger. For example, this is very important. It might be asked that photoreceptors are present on which structure of the Which structure of the cockroaches? So photoreceptors are found in the compound eyes that allow to perceive the light and distinguish between the shapes and the movements. So such questions might be asked from these. The next organ system is the reproductive. So we know that cockroaches are dioecious. What do we mean by dioecious? That is, they have separate sexes, male and female are separate. Also, we can distinguish between male and female by the presence of this, we have discussed, by the presence of anal style. So, anal style is present only in males, absent in females, female cockroaches, right? So, testes in male and ovaries in female. So testes of cockroach are located in these segments, abdominal segment 4th, 5th and 6th. So you can see here, this is the 4th segment, 4th, 5th and 6th. So the lobules of testes are located in 4th, 5th and 6th segment of the cockroach, abdominal segment of the cockroach, or you can also write it as 4th to 6th abdominal segment, right? So lobules of testes that result in the formation of sperm. Then we have a very important structure which is the mushroom gland, which is also known as utricular gland. So this mushroom gland consists of two types of tubules. One is the long cylinder tubules, which is called as utriculi majoris, that is peripheral tubule of peripheral tubules. So you can see here that the long tubules are present, which is utriculi majoris. So this complete is the mushroom gland. You can see here that the long tubular structure are present, which is the utriculi majoris. And then there are smaller tubule structures. Then there is a smaller tubule structure, shorter tubules, which is utriculi brevis. So these are small tubular structures, which are utriculi brevis. And also we can see that there is a seminal vesicle which is being present here. Together these three lead to the formation of mushroom gland. These three together are a part of mushroom gland. The small tubules, which is utriculi brevis, larger tubules, long tubules, which is utriculi majoris, larger majoris, and the seminal vesicle which is present. These three together forms the mushroom gland, or which is also known as utricular gland. Fine. So all the sperms of seminal vesicles are glued together into a large bundle called spermatophore. So all these sperms which are formed by the testes in the seminal vesicle are glued together into the large bundles which is known as the spermatophore. Spermatophore has three-layered wall, which is inner layered, which is secreted by the utriculi majoris. So you can see here, this is the structure of spermatophore, which is three-layered wall. So it has three layers. So the inner layer is secreted by the utriculi majoris, middle layer is secreted by the ejaculatory duct, and the outer layer is secreted by the phallic gland or the conglobate gland. So you can see here there are different glands and ducts which are present. So the phallic gland forms the outer layer. The secretions of the ducts of the phallic gland forms the outer layer of the spermatophore. And phallic gland, which is also known as conglobate gland, it forms the outer layer of the spermatophore. The inner layer is secreted by the utriculi majoris, and the middle layer is secreted by the ejaculatory duct. Also, we can see that, so basically what we can say is that this it secretes outer layer of spermatophore. It is filled within the spermatophore. Filled within the spermatophore. Duct of phallic gland this secretes the inner layer. Longer tubule secretes the inner layer, and duct of phallic gland secretes the outer layer. So also we can see that there are three asymmetrical chitinous structures which are called as the male ganophytes of phelomeres. These phelomeres are right phelomere, left phelomere and ventral. The right phelomere, left phelomere and ventral. So left phelomere is the largest one and the ventral phelomere is the smallest one. So you can see here that these are the different structures. So this is the left phelomere and this is right phelomere and ventral phelomere. So the left phelomere is the largest and then we have ventral phelomere which is the smallest. So these are the three asymmetrical chitinous structures called male ganopophytes or phelomeres that helps in the attachment also. And the male, so these are a part of these left phelomere, right phelomere, titillators, these right phelomere, left phelomere, titillators, pseudopenis, etc. These all are the part of external genitalia. Understood? So this is the structure of the male reproductive system where the mature sperms which are formed by the testes are conducted by the vasa differentia. So vasa differens helps in the conduction. So it helps in the conduction of the mature sperm from the testes into the seminal vesicle. So we know seminal vesicle is a part of mushroom gland and all the sperms of the seminal vesicle, as I mentioned, they are glued together to form the spermatophore. The spermatophore is the male discharge of these mainly during the ejaculation. What does the cockroach ejaculate is its spermatophore. And during its discharge, spermatophore becomes invested by covering which is formed by the milky secretion of long tubules. So we know that inner layer is formed by the secretion of the long tubules, which is that secretes the inner layer of spermatophore, the long tubules, which are known as utriculi majoris. And the covering is a pouch-like, as we can see here, that the covering is a pouch-like structure with a small aperture on one side. And inside is filled with the small tubules, which is utriculi brevioris. So the secretion of the small tubules fills into the spermatophore and nourishes the sperm. So what is the function of this secretion which is produced by these? It nourishes the sperms. So you can see here that spermatozoa is being stored here. So it nourishes the sperm. So as the spermatophore reaches at about the middle of ejaculatory duct, so after passing through vasa differentia and after passing through the seminal vesicles, when it reaches to the middle of the ejaculatory duct here, it is then also comes in contact with various secretions of the ejaculatory duct and which is leading to the covering of spermatophore by a third layer, which is the outer layer of the spermatophore. And finally, during the copulation, as the copulation concludes, spermatophore is then discharged and it is invested by a third covering, which is formed by the secretion of phallic gland poured upon it. So finally, when it is getting discharged, it is invested by the third covering, which is the duct of the phallic gland, which is secreted by the duct of the phallic gland. Fine. This left phelomere, titillator, pseudopenis, the right phelomere, ventral phelomere, all these are a part of external genitalia of the male cockroach. So these are the different parts of the male cockroach. We can see reproductive system of the male cockroach that involves the release of the release of the sperm from the testes that passes through the vasa deferens, and through there it comes in contact with the various secretions that are formed by the longer tubules or the duct of the phallic gland and the ejaculatory duct. Together, all these secretions form the three layers of the spermatophore, and during copulation, the spermatophore is being released containing the sperms. The female reproductive system mainly consists of ovaries, oviduct, vagina, genital chambers, spermatheca, collateral glands, and female ganopophysis, which is the ovipositor processes. The ovaries of cockroach are located in the abdominal segment 2 to 6. Remember, testes are located in 4, 5, and 6. Ovaries are located in 2 to 6 segment, 2 to 6 abdominal segment. Each ovary consists of 8 ovarioles. So, how many total ovarioles are present? 16 ovarioles are present in total, 2 into 8. So, ovaries, it consists of ovary, oviduct, common oviduct or vagina, collateral glands, genital chamber, vestibulum, ganopophysis, and spermatheca. So a pair of collateral glands also open in the genital chamber. We can see here that there is a pair of collateral glands that opens in the genital chamber. So genital pouch or gynaetrium is the division into the genital chamber in front and oothecal chamber in the behind. Female genitalia consist of 3 pairs of chitinic process that hangs from the roof of the oothecal chamber into its cavity. Now, sperm that are transferred to the spermatophores, their fertilization happens. The eggs are encased in the capsules, which is called as the ootheca. Ootheca is a dark reddish to blackish brown capsule, which is around 8 millimeter long, or it is glued to a suitable surface, usually in a crack or a crevice, that is any kind of crack which is of relatively high humidity near a food source. So basically, the fertilized eggs are encased in a capsule, which is the ootheca. So it is the capsule of the fertilized egg. On an average, female produces 9 to 10 ootheca that contains 14 to 16 eggs. Ootheca of a cockroach is formed by a protein secreted by the collateral glands. So collateral glands helps in the formation of the ootheca. The proteins, collateral glands helps in the formation of ootheca. Right? The last thing is the development. So in case of Periplaneta americana, the development is of parametabolous type. Parametabolous means there is a development through nymphal stage, gradual metamorphosis. There is a gradual metamorphosis, and this gradual metamorphosis occurs through the nymphal stage. The nymph look very much like adults, and the nymph grows by molting about 13 times to reach the adult form. So you can see here that there is no other larval stage. The egg converts into the nymph, which is looking like an adult, except it does not have wings. So it does not have wings. The next to the last nymphal stage has wing pads, but only adult cockroaches have wings. The metamorphosis is regulated by 2 hormones. So there are 2 hormones that regulate this process. The one is ecdysone hormone that's secreted by the prothoracic glands, and the second one is the juvenile hormone, which is secreted by the corpora ellata. So it is very important. The type of metamorphosis in the development of the Periplaneta america is parometabolous, which means gradual metamorphosis, in which there is the egg that converts into adult through the nymph stage, and the nymph grows by molting about 13 times to reach the adult form. In all the nymphal stage, wing pads are present, but only in the adults the cockroaches have the wings. We know that there are 2 types of wings, the forewing and the hindwing. Forewing that originate from mesothorax, and the hindwing that originates from the metathorax. There is no wing that originates from the prothorax. So this is all about the development and structure